Good evening, everyone. I'm Hope Tremblay, the Assistant Managing Editor for Reminder Publishing and Editor of the Westfield News. Some housekeeping first is please silence your cell phones. And just to let you know, we are doing 3 wards tonight, so in between each ward, we're going to have a few-minute break. The Westfield News and the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce are happy to sponsor tonight's Candidate Forum in partnership with WSKB Radio and Westfield Community Programming Channel 15, as well as our hosts here at the Westfield Senior Center. Tonight's forum is being recorded and will be played on Channel 15's YouTube channel and again on Channel 15 prior to the election. Tonight we will meet candidates for Wards 1, 2, and 3. Ward 1 candidates are incumbent Marianne Babinski and candidate Nick Morganelli, a current at-large counselor. Our Ward 2 candidates are incumbent Ralph Figge and candidate Juan Navarrete, and our Ward 3 candidate Bridget Matthews-Kane, who is unopposed. Tonight, candidates, our rules are you will each have a 2-minute opening introduction. Each candidate will be asked the same series of questions with up to 3 minutes to respond, and we will end with a 3-minute closing statement from each candidate. I'm going to ask the questions tonight, rotating which candidate responds first. Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Kate Phelan, who's in the front seat right here. She'll be keeping time and will hold up cards indicating how much time you have left, finally with a stop and probably a vocal prompt for you to stop as well. On behalf of the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce and the Westfield News, I thank you all for coming tonight, for the candidates for participating, and for all of you for joining us here this evening, and for those who end up watching at home. Please vote November 5th and exercise your right to participate in your local government. We're going to start with opening statements, and Marianne, you are first.
Thank you. Is this working? 1 minute? Oh, I'm sorry.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right, you was showing me 1 minute. All right, thank you. Welcome, everybody. This is a much better night tonight than it was last night. My name is Marianne Babinski. I live in Ward 1, and I am the current Ward 1 counselor. I have been Ward 1 counselor for 2 terms, and I've enjoyed it tremendously. I am, as the ward counselor, have been on several different subcommittees. My background is that I actually have lived in, I was born and grew up in Ward 1, and that is on the Prospect Hill area, as we call it, the Prospect Hill gangs, roamed around the hills there, Pachasik and Montgomery. And then I now live in Ward 1A. So I've experienced issues that come with living in Ward 1, both in A and B precincts. So I want to welcome everybody here. I hope that you will get a good feel for what the issues are, what our answers are going to be, and what going forward that we can continue to do as a full city council for the city of Westfield, because that's my goal here. I have promised from the beginning when I ran the first time that I ran because I wanted to be a representative of the issues that the Ward 1 residents were facing, and that we would have a voice, a strong voice, whether it would be mine or theirs, because I hope to always encourage those residents to step up and use their voice to bring to the city council and the city government the issues that they have and that face them. So I appreciate you all being here, and thank you very much. If you have any questions you can't answer them, I hear, but I will be happy to answer them later on. Thank you.
Okay, Nick.
Good evening. I'm Nick Morganelli, a Ward 1 candidate for the city of Westfield. Thank you to Hope and to Kate and Tina for being here tonight, for hosting this. Thank you, all of you, for coming. Thanks to the Westfield Evening News and the Chamber as well. It has been a tough decision for me to go from an at-large position to the ward position. I gave it a lot of thought. So I'll explain a little bit about that later on tonight. But I do want to say that who am I? I'm married 21 years. I've got 4 children. Lived in Westfield for 20 years. Love this city. There is so much here for families, for small business, for just, it's a great place to live, to work, to raise a family, to retire. Although lately we've heard retirement is tough for some because of the taxes increasing. So I'm a broadcaster and consultant. Also serve on a board of directors for a veterans foundation. I just want to recognize, who are the veterans here tonight? We have any veterans with us? Thank you very much for your service. Appreciate that. And who's from Ward 1? Ward 1? Excellent. Okay. Thank you for coming. I just want to say that if you would like someone that has servant leadership at heart, that's me. I'm your candidate. Proper road funding and sidewalk maintenance, I'm the candidate. A priority for a second water source for the north side, a non-contaminated water source, I'm your candidate. Support small business, that's me. Fiscal responsibility and accountability, I will be there for that as well. I've always taken votes for that. And transparency between City Hall and all of you, and being a voice for Ward 1. I am your candidate, and I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick, you can hang on to that mic because you'll be responding first to our first question. Water concerns are obviously important to citizens in your ward because they've been affected by the contaminated water in wells 1, 2, 7, and 8. Do you believe the city has taken the best course of action to provide clean water and seek funds to pay for the costs associated with filtration? Why or why not?
That's a great question. And that's the one that has been going back and forth with many people, between constituents and city councilors, and on forums and at public forums, and unfortunately in some respects on social media. But I believe that the city had to do something. We had to filter the water. I'm not sure that the permanent filtration was the answer, because I really believe that strongly that when you have a new chemical that is somehow comes into your life, and if you're putting that in your body, you really you want to take precautions. It's a new science. We really don't know a lot about all the PFAS chemicals. We're only testing for a handful, and there are thousands of these chemicals. And I'm looking at you, and I'm sorry, I've got to look out here. She reminded me of that. I should know that. I know how to handle an audience and say hi to the audience. So my apologies for looking at Hope. But anyway, so I just want to say that did we take the best course of action? Yes, in the immediate concern we did. We had to filter the water. We had to give people drinking water that was safer. Is it completely safe? I'm still questioning that, because there are a lot of these chemicals that, from what I've read, can go through the carbon filtration. I do believe that finding a second source of water is very, very important. Anyone will tell you that carbon filtration, if there are petroleum products in the aquifer, that it will greatly impede the ability of the carbon to do its job. So I really think we have options that we need to explore. It may cost some money, but what thing can we not spend money on that is so important? What should we spend money on that's that important? And there are monies out there. We've been advocating with the state in many ways. I traveled to Boston for this issue. I met with DEP and EPA officials, with some other counselors, and there's things that we can do. So I'm looking forward to serving Ward 1 and in some respects Ward 6, because they're north side, and continuing to do what's right and find an alternative source of water for the north side. We can't have all our eggs in one basket. We need another source. If anything, God forbid, were to happen at the airport with a big spill, fuel thing or anything like that, we'd be in big trouble. So did I answer your question, Hope? Is there another part to that? I only have 15 seconds left.
That was good.
Okay. Thank you.
You're all set. And Marion, would you like me to read it again for you? Sure. Water concerns are obviously important to citizens in your ward because they're affected by contaminated water in wells 1, 2, 7, and 8. Do you believe the city has taken the best course of action to provide clean water and seek funds to pay for the costs associated with filtration, and why or why not?
Thank you. Again, that is a great question, and I don't know if we can do it justice in 3 minutes, but we will try. I do believe that the city took the right course, and I stood by that belief from the beginning. When this all happened early in 2016, as a ward counselor in one of the wards that was impacted by this, I was invited to participate in a meeting at City Hall where decisions had to be made. That's when the EPA gave us a recommendation that the parts per trillion were lowered down to 70 parts per trillion, and that we had to notify or send out notification to the residents. What I was happy to find out is that the city had already taken proactive steps to do something about the situation. They had shut down one of the wells, I think it was well 8, at the end of December 2015, and that in January of 2016 they shut down well 7 because they knew there was an issue with these, there was going to be an issue coming from those wells. We had the other 2 wells running, which we may or may not know the history of it, but they did their homework. And as a former teacher, I was happy to find that out, that the city was proactive in shutting those wells down, and what they also did was to reach out to not only experts in the city, but also experts outside of the city. So the question now was, what do we do for the best solution for the residents of this city? We had to take some kind of action. We couldn't wait to get the parties that were responsible for this particular contamination happening up at the airport to pay us or help us or whatever. We had to take action to protect the residents. And that's what was my concern from the get-go, was to make sure that the residents of my ward and the wards north of the river got a solution as quickly as possible and the best solution possible. So I started doing some research on my own at that particular point in time. I reached out to organizations that I had connections with, like Clean Water Action, Toxics Action Center, and so forth. And I wanted to know and bring them to town to work with city officials to do a panel discussion. That never took place. But I also reached out and did my own homework over those years by going to conferences, by going to mass DEP meetings both in Boston and in Springfield. So I want to say that I have no problem with this. All the literature and everything that I have read has supported GAC filtration. Even the communities, Mass DEP, there was a resolution they put out there for moving the Mass DEP to do something about putting in stronger regulations. And the first thing on the list, because I could go on forever, but was GAC filtration with ion exchange. So they have supported it. Many groups across the country have supported GAC filtration, which we are doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Marianne. And you are answering first for our second question. There has been talk at city council meetings about changing the zoning on the north side to exclude future development. Since this area is Westfield's prime real estate for development, which would bring in much needed commercial revenue, what is your position on changing zoning to prohibit development, and what development would you support?
Again, that is another good question. I don't think we are against development on the north side. I think that what we are concerned about and have been concerned for a while, and that was before I even became a city councilor, is the number of development, the amount of development that comes in that brings in truck traffic. Not that we are against trucks either, because at some point you reach a supersaturation. We are realizing a tremendous problem on the north side with truck congestion, traffic congestion, even cars. Because of the exit at the turnpike, exit 3, we have a lot of traffic going through, and I don't know if any of you have ever been caught in that line of traffic that goes back sometimes all the way to the state trooper barracks on the highway, on the turnpike. But business that we want to bring in. When Cabot Road was rural residential, I fought with many residents up there before I was even a councilor. We got petitions together to try to keep it as rural residential and not change it to industrial. Because there were rural residential areas up there and residential areas that were going to be surrounded. They were going to be like an island in the middle of an industrial area. So it's the truck traffic. If we could find out a solution, I know that they want to put another exit somewhere down between Westfield and Lee, and they think that will bring some relief. But businesses up there, because we have a big bulk of the aquifer on the north side, that's where the airport is, and there's another section of it off a Route Road. A lot of that truck traffic, somehow, they don't want to get held behind in traffic either. Time is money to them. They've even said things like that. So they are branching out into residential neighborhoods, and the residents who have moved out there don't appreciate or don't need, especially in back roads. Those roads are getting beaten up by the truck traffic. We have to try to figure out a way to get those that truck traffic to stay with or stay within maybe Southampton Road, or following the truck routes that we have defined within the city. Some businesses, I know that people have listened to it and talked about it. When the industrial park on Cabot Road was converted to Industrial A, the city put together a plan, several plans, and they were going to make sure that that area, we were promised that it was going to be small businesses, tech businesses, not warehouses or tractor trailers anymore. So this is the thing that we hope that could go on up there, and also using up some of the abandoned buildings that are already there instead of clearing property, cutting down trees, which are a precious part of protecting natural resources. So we're not against business, it's the type of business that goes in there. Thank you.
Nick, I'll repeat the question for you. There's been talk at city council meetings about changing the zoning on the north side to exclude future development. Since this area is Westfield's prime real estate for development, which would bring in much needed commercial revenue, what is your position on changing any zoning to prohibit development, and what development would you like to support there?
Thank you, Hope. So it's a sensitive question because we want to keep taxes down for people, so we need growth. When that part of growth, not only in building homes, but is to have some new businesses come in. Small businesses, I'm an advocate for them. I think they are wonderful. You know, we've got the little ice cream shop on the north side, you know, the creamery. We have many small businesses, Santorini's and different places there that you can have a bite to eat and so forth, and there's a lot of little businesses there along Southampton Road. Now that's a busy road. It's zoned for that, and but even within that, there's sections of that road that are all residential. So it gets back to earlier years when the city planning was happening, and I mean, when the airport was coming in, it's okay. Well, here's we're going to put an airport here on top of an aquifer. I don't know what they were thinking when they put an airport on top of an aquifer and then build all this industry on the side of the city that it obviously is wetlands and is aquifer and should be protected, and where we should have all our playing fields up there for the kids, you know. So I'm not against new business coming in up there. I certainly don't want a moratorium on trucks that Councilor Babinski offered at the last council meeting. That's something that you know, I don't want any new big trucking companies coming in with another 100 trucks a day, another 1,000 trucks a week, or whatever the number is. I think the folks in Ward 1 have had enough of the trucks, and they do a lot of damage on the roadways. So I think we have to be very, very sensitive about the types of businesses that come in up there, at the same time looking at the tax revenue that we'll get from that. The other thing is, you know, Cabot Road, there's a large open space up there, and the city wants to develop that. 2 years ago, when I got on the council again in 2018, I met with Joe Mitchell, and we talked about different plans around the city, what's going on, and he mentioned Cabot Road, and part of me says, a big part of me says, that's probably not a good idea. I mean, it's up there, you've got a lot of residents, it's farmland, it's a beautiful open space. We really need to protect our open space, our green space, and where there's potential development it's already paved. For instance, we've got an abandoned warehouse. I mean, let's put businesses in there. Let's look at what we can do on the north side in a very fiscally conservative manner, but a very respectful manner to the environment, to put businesses in there that will fit. And as far as changing the current zoning, that would have to be on a, we'd really have to look at that, and I'm on the ZPD. I'm chair of the committee, and we are looking at that, actually. Every meeting, we look at that.
Right. You're going to answer the next question first, Nick. Okay. Residents and business owners are concerned with daily traffic congestion at the Mass Pike I-90 interchange at Exit 3. What is your opinion on the solution to the problems there?
Well, the talk of an Exit 2B has been thrown around, and Senator Humison, Representative Vilas have been advocates for that. I think we really need, first of all, to really be a voice at the state level to say we need 2B or 2A or whatever it's going to be called, 3B. We need it over there because all the trucks that come off the Pike head through downtown, which I don't know if you've driven. Who drives downtown, like, who has driven downtown 4 to 6 o'clock in the evening? Raise your hand if you've, so there's a lot of traffic going through Westfield. If we can eliminate the trucks and have them go, the ones that are heading out Route 20 West, that would be a huge, huge help if we could do that. So I'm an advocate for that. As far as minimizing the traffic, they just redesigned it with no tolls, and there's issues there with the traffic still. But other than having a police officer there that can help alleviate something, I mean, we've looking at the lighting system and how the lights are working and if everything's timed right and that kind of thing. There's not a lot we can do. We've got businesses that are getting deliveries and vehicles are going out. There's people commuting through that road to go. They get off the Pike, they go to Southampton, they go to East Hampton, they head down to Southwick. We have a lot of traffic in the city in the morning and in the afternoon at that exit, but especially in the afternoon, you're trying to get off the Pike and this big line. And I think it's a hazard as the cars line up and they go out onto the Pike. That's a huge issue. I've been in that before, and it's I think to myself, why is this like this? So perhaps, looking at those high traffic times and, doing something to alleviate that. It's out of my realm of jurisdiction. I mean, it's a state highway there, and as far as Southampton Road, that is too. It would certainly be a big headache if they were going to do anything to even widen the road more and take land and put more turning lanes in and all that. They're doing it on Western Ave right now, and sometimes you've got to get through the tough times to see the prize at the other side and then enjoy the fruits of your labor, so to speak. So I hope I've answered the question. I'm looking forward to speaking to people more about that, and I'm all open for ideas on how to alleviate that as much as possible, because we do deal with it day in and day out.
Thank you. Mary Ann, same question. Residents and business owners are concerned with daily traffic congestion at the Mass Pike I-90 interchange at Exit 3. What is your opinion on the solution to those traffic problems?
I guess we're almost on the same page with some of this stuff. The solution is, well, one of the answers I gave before when we talked about the truck traffic. Truck traffic or more truck traffic trying to come off on Southampton Road and even go to the Exit 3 is contributing to some of the backup of the traffic there. Plus, we have a lot more of people driving. Is this working? Okay. We have a lot more people driving vehicles. I just had an experience where up by Westville High School, and the number of people that are out there driving cars, school buses kept going by me leaving Westville High School that were practically empty, because a lot of students that go there, probably because they have jobs, are driving their cars. I don't know if they're heading for the turnpike or not, but I have experienced, and many of you have experienced, the backup onto the highway. My issue with all of that traffic is, and I think I read something recently about how Westville years ago thought it was a great idea to have the Exit 3 there, and they thought it would draw traffic through Westfield, bring business downtown Westville as those residents or those people headed out toward the hill towns. But now it's not such a good idea because we find out we can't handle all of that traffic coming off of exit 3, along with all the truck businesses that we bring up there. We have industrial park at Cabot Road, and we haven't even built that out yet, but we know that one of the things that was told to us about that is that there's a potential that it could bring in up to 3,000 more vehicles. That would be either trucks or people going to work there, whatever kind of businesses you have there. We have a lot of congestion on Southampton Road. What I get concerned about is, one, air emissions, cars stalled on a highway in front of a school, an elementary school, that are breathing in all of those emissions from those vehicles. Maybe we need to start looking, and hopefully somewhere along the line, vehicles will be electric, more electric vehicles. We'll have less emissions coming off of these vehicles. That probably won't happen for a long time. That exit 3, if you've 2B, 3B, whatever they're gonna call it, that may not happen for 10 years or more. I just heard the other day that in Blandford, or the state decided not to put that in, or they're gonna hold off on it because it might take so long. So what are the solutions? We have to cut down on some of the things we think we want to do now and put a little moratorium and step back and see what we can do to help protect the people that live up there that are fighting to get through where they need to go, even get out of their streets to get onto, where some of them are trapped there because they can't even get out onto the state highway there, Route 10202. So it's a big puzzle, but I think we need to think seriously about the situation that we've created there and come up with a solution, and we can work it out together. I am convinced of that.
Thank you. And Marion, you are first response. It's our last formal question before closing statements. And and it is a lovely open-ended one for you. What is your top priority for your ward?
My top priority for my ward is, one, to work with people, because I want to put people first, is to encourage people in the ward, because you never know what happens and everybody has their own issues. But to have people end up being able to feel that they have a strong voice and they can go down and participate in government down at City Hall and get their wishes and their voices heard, that they should be a part of the discussions that happen for things that are going to impact their life on a daily basis. And we have to open the venue for them to be able to do that. And I start that with some of the people that I work with. And the best thing that happened to me was one of the things when we were talking about the truck terminal that was going to go up on the north side. And one of the women from up there, I said, she was afraid to go. She was just going to show up. I said, you can stand there and you can just say, when it asks you to come up, are you for or against this? Just say whether you're for or against it and what your name is. That's what they're going to ask you. You can sit down. You don't have to say anything more. Well, she didn't stop there. She went on and continued talking because it was a serious issue for her. And at the end of the meeting, she came over to me and said, I said, you did a great job. And she said, I don't know what happened. Once I started talking, I felt like I could go on and I felt very comfortable talking. That's what we need to do. We need to make people feel comfortable that they are part of this city government, that we are a community that cares about everybody and we want to give them a voice. We don't always agree, but we give enough time to spend time together and share and have dialogue. We can build community and we can find a way that will give us the solutions that we've been trying to talk about here and figure out what needs to be done. So that's why I think is the most important thing for me, besides all the other things I already mentioned about protecting people's quality of life. On the north side, we need to start protecting, do a better job of protecting our natural resources. We have precious resources up there, one of them being water. I mean, when the city put a fee on, or it was not the base rate for water, we raised the rate on usage. People were upset about that because we were going to charge people, and the bill was going to go up to, like, I heard the number $700 a year. It was not going to be that much. But what it did for me was to say, hooray, this is going to teach people to conserve our precious resource called water, because they won't leave their hose running in the driveway any longer. So That was a roundabout way to get it to happen, to get people to think you can control your spending if you just don't waste the water. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nick, same question for you. What is your top priority for Ward 1?
Thank you, Hope. My top priority is to get to know the Ward 1 residents one-on-one, face-to-face, every month, having meetings, listening to their concerns, and addressing those issues and solving problems and working with residents to do that. My priority is your priority for Ward 1. Obviously, the water issue is continuing to be one of the #1 issues. The truck traffic, the industry that's there, and perhaps zoning, as we heard the question tonight, zoning properly and being very careful on what we do to change any zoning there. And also just being really good stewards of the green space that we have left there, and being good stewards of the already existing business lots that are there that are perhaps empty, marketing the city and getting some good businesses in there so that we're not dealing with, you know, a truck terminal company coming in wanting to build here. If we fill up all that space with smaller businesses, then we're good. We won't get any big trucking companies coming in. But you know, it really is just to listen and to work with the residents. And you know, Councilor Babinski, I have to say, I enjoyed working with her on the council. I have no animosity towards her. She's done a great job for Ward 1. I believe I can do a better job because I really want to work hard. I live in Ward 1. You can't run in the ward unless you live there. And you know, I see some things that can be improved. I mean, we just had an issue with Sadie Knox Playground, and you know, they're doing some construction there with energy source and all that kind of thing. And they had an issue with the softball games and people parking on people's lawns. And so there's those little things too that matter, and it may affect your quality of life. So I really want to advocate for the absolute best quality of life that you can have there, and improved quality of life. And that really includes working with the residents, speaking with the mayor, our current outgoing mayor, pretty soon. Good to see you tonight, Mayor Sullivan. And the new mayor coming along. Really working together with the mayor and the other city councilors and getting the job done. Solving problems and addressing those issues, and not doing it in a timely manner, not waiting a long time to get that done. So I am that candidate. I will certainly advocate for that and listen. I'll be listening a lot more specifically to Ward 1. I've listened to the people in the entire city, but specifically Ward 1 more so. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. And you are our first candidate to offer your closing statement.
So I guess I just will say that, and I don't have a closing statement. I don't have anything specifically written down. I'm not going to script this. I just want to have a heart-to-heart. So I'm just going to stand up. I'm Italian. I've got to stand up. But look, you know, I'm a person of integrity. I'm a man of faith. I have values, very strong values, family values. In my work on the council in the past, am I okay standing up? Okay. You know, I legislated the Clean Air Act of Westfield. A lot of you may not remember that. That was back in 2007, where, you know, smoking was not allowed on school property. I made it not allowed on any city park. And I drafted it. I proposed it as a motion. I drafted it. I wrote it. I worked with the language with, you know, the law department and that kind of thing, and we have that now. So if you see anybody smoking on a park, they're not supposed to be doing that. They need to go somewhere, and yeah, they'll just go to the sidewalk. But at least, like at Pumpkin Fest, when you're on that green, no one really should, they're not supposed to smoke there. They can get a fine. So there's things like that I care about the city. I've raised my 4 children here for almost 3 of them all their lives. And I want to continue to working for you, for the city of Westfield. I've switched gears. I want to be a Ward 1 councilor because I really want to take good care of the the water issue and the business and truck issue on the north side. Not that Mary Ann hasn't been working hard at that. She's done a lot of good work at that. I commend her in front of all of you for the work that she's done. But I really want to make sure that we have a second source of water there. That's where we differ. And you know, as far as a truck moratorium, we kind of throw that language out there, and businesses, as Council Beltrandi said at the meeting last week, that's not a good thing to be saying, because businesses look at that and say, well, you know, you don't want my business there. It's not that we don't want any trucks there. It's just we don't want any, like, we don't want 100 more trailers going down the road. So I will just say that I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th. I really believe I will work hard for you. I will meet with you. I will listen, and we'll solve problems together and get the north side, get Ward 1 in the best it can be for your quality of life there. So that's from the heart. That's really all I have to say. I look forward to talking with you. If anyone wants to have coffee any morning, you know, see me after, and we'll set up that appointment. Be glad to talk to you more about that. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mary Ann, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Councilor Morganelli. I just, everything you commented before you gave this last talk was a lot of stuff I've already done for the last 4 years. And I just ad-lib this part in here is not that I was happy when you ran for at-large, because it meant a lot to me that Ward 1 would now have 2 voices on the City Council. And the sad news for me is now we're going to be cut in half. So I wish to thank Hope Tremblay from the Westfield News, Kate Phelan from the Chamber of Commerce, and Tina Gorman from the Senior Center for providing this opportunity for residents to hear from candidates running for the City Council. I take very seriously my position as the current Ward 1 City Councilor, and I am reading because I go over if I don't. For almost 4 years, I've worked to address the issues facing Ward 1 residents and the city as a whole. I have tried to stay true to my promise to be responsive to the Ward 1 concerns and to be there for them when called upon. I have worked hard to support and address residents' concerns, from road improvements to traffic issues, from noise mitigation to improving the safety of our water with stronger aquifer protection, from budget decisions to transparency in government, from helping residents to get their voices heard to finding fair and equitable solutions to Ward 1 issues. I have been a strong, willing, and present advocate at local government meetings in support of residents who are there to voice their concerns. Assisting and supporting residents is a very important part of the work I do as a counselor. To that end, I have supported a moratorium on crumb rubber, the bond for the water treatment plant, the ATSDR CDC health exposure study. For Ward 1B residents, I was there with them on their lawns ever since when they started with the Eversource reliability projects to help them out and address their concerns. I have helped the Mass DEP with a private well PFAS contamination testing, going door to door, knocking on people's doors, make sure they got their private wells tested. I've been to tons of meetings, which I've said already. I'm now working on the CSX train horn issues along Pachasik Road. I would be honored to be given the opportunity to continue working for Ward 1 residents as their representative of the City Council. I have many other things I would like to finish, and I hope that I get that opportunity with the residents that I have come to know and care about. As many know, I am only a phone call or email away. I believe my record supports that. I will, as I have for the past 4 years, continue to go that extra mile if given the opportunity. I humbly and respectfully ask for your vote on November 5, 2019. No one can do everything has been my motto for a long time, but everyone can do something. On November 5, your vote matters, and you can do your something by voting on November 5th. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you to Nick and to Mary Ann for being here. We're going to take a 5-minute break before Ward 2. If you're tuning out or leaving, we do have Wards 4, 5, and 6 here Monday night. We have at-large at Westfield Technical Academy on Wednesday, and the mayor's debate at Westfield State on Tuesday, all at 6:30. We'll be back in a few moments. just waiting for Ken to give me the thumbs up. All right. Thanks, everyone. We're going to get started with our Ward 2 portion of the forum. Tonight we have our incumbent, Ralph Figge, and our candidate, Juan Navarrete. It's the same process we just went through. We will have our 2-minute opening statements, followed by a series of questions, ending with a 3-minute conclusion. And we are going alphabetically. So, Ralph, would you please give us your opening statement?
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody involved here tonight with putting this on. It's a big undertaking, and I really appreciate everything you've done. Kate Phelan from the Chamber, Hope Tremblay from the News, Ken Stomsky from Channel 15, giving up his free time to record this for everybody to go. So once again, thanks very much. My name is Ralph Figge. I've lived in Westfield for 34 years. I'm not one that was born and bred and raised here. I chose to come to Westfield to live and to raise my family. I am married to my wife Susan. We've just celebrated our 37th wedding anniversary, and we've lived on Brookline Avenue for 34 years. I first became interested in politics in college. I went to Anderson University in Anderson, Indiana, getting a major in social studies with a minor in political science and education. Traveling around, found the Berkshires. What a beautiful place, decided to stay there, and then moved to Westfield. We have 2 children. My son is a microsurgeon for the Buffett Cancer Hospital in Omaha, Nebraska, and my daughter is a supervisor of science, technology, and engineering for the Westfield Public Schools. Both of our kids did very well. They are the product of the Westfield Public Schools, and we're very proud of what they do. One of the things I do am very proud of as well is to be the Ward 2 City Councilor. When I retired from Agawam High School, I decided I needed a hobby to keep me busy, so I said, why not? Ward 2 needed a counselor, so I threw my hat in the ring, and I was fortunate enough to win that election and have been representing Ward 2 ever since. So this will be my 4th attempt at being a ward councilor, and I look forward to serving the residents of Ward 2.
Thank you. My name is Juan Navarrete, and again, I want to reiterate, thank you all for hosting this event. My background is I was born and raised in New York City, and came here in about the year 2000. I've been working for the same company ever since. I've moved to Westfield in 2007, and I enjoy it here. I love the small town life compared to New York City, and I really want to be part of the change that's coming, that I see coming to the city. Part of my background is I'm a quality control inspector. I deal with a lot of federal jargon and rules and regulations at the airport, and I look forward to being part of that that aspect, bringing that knowledge to the City Council. What else? I am a father of 3 kids. I've been married since 2000, so about going on 20 years this December, and 3 kids, 16, 8, and 3. Thank you.
You can keep the mic, Juan, because you are going to respond first to our first question, which is, your ward borders Bay State Noble Hospital. There's been interest in establishing a new hospital zone. Are you in favor of this, and why or why not?
If it does not, like Mr. Morganelli said, quality of life going forward to the people that live in that area would be a big concern for me. If they're not happy with what the hospital is doing, then I would be opposed to it. But I'd have to hear out more of the details of what they plan on doing as far as building a bigger structure, or what are they going to be offering, basically.
Ralph, the same question. Your ward borders Bay State Noble Hospital. There's been interest in establishing a new hospital zone there. Are you in favor of this? Why or why not?
I'm in favor of the hospital zone for a couple reasons. Back in 1980, when the zoning was redone, Noble Hospital was included in the residential zoning. When they did that, they omitted the word hospital. So now Noble Hospital is kind of like floating around. It doesn't have a real home, so it needs to have some specific place for it to be. A hospital zone would not allow the hospital to do whatever they wanted. It would still involve a lot of public participation, public input. There would be public hearings. As the zone is proposed or was proposed, it was with specific boundaries. So only what was inside that boundary could be classified as a hospital zone. Some people had concerns that, well, if you did for Noble, then everybody else could apply for it. But that wouldn't be the case unless they had their own specific zoning ordinance drawn. I think we all can agree that a hospital is not a residence. And to have it in residence, for Noble to do anything, they need to go in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals to get approval. The hospital zone, as it was proposed, was to have either the City Council or the Planning Board review all special permits. So I think the idea of a hospital zone is a good one. I think everybody in Westfield can see the value of having a local hospital. We're seeing some services being cut at that hospital, and a lot of us aren't happy with that. But I think the overall value of having a hospital in our community is invaluable. So if we can help them out in order to have them do some things, along with using the existing public input, I think we will all benefit from that.
Thank you. And you will be responding first to our next question, which is, off-campus college parties are concerned for residents in your ward. What do you think is the solution to this problem?
Off-campus parties have been an issue ever since President Dobell doubled the size of the university and didn't increase the on-campus housing to accommodate everybody. I have in the past sponsored legislation, city ordinances to try to address this in a couple ways. One, we have a new nuisance house ordinance where the public health department can intervene and intercede and try to help keep the quality of the properties in the neighborhoods up to snuff, and so they're not dilapidated. This has had some impact. It hasn't had the impact that I really was hoping for, but it was a start. The second piece of legislation that I proposed and what we were able to pass dealt specifically with party houses. The police department now have a mechanism where they can issue tickets upon being called to a house. The tickets will then be reviewed by the clerk magistrate in the Westfield District Court. The first couple years, we really weren't very successful in getting the tickets enforced. They were just being thrown out. And as you can imagine, if the tickets were thrown out, then what reason was there for anybody to behave? The last year and a half, we have a new court clerk, and the fines have been imposed. And it has not totally cured the issue of off-campus housing and parties, but it certainly has helped to control it to a little bit. And speaking with the community police officers that respond, they have a good program where they try to go out and meet all the college kids as they move in and let them know, look, you know, don't be having parties of 200-300 people. What I'd like to do if I get reelected is I'd like to develop a voluntary rental registry throughout the city. So when the police do go, or the fire department goes, or anybody goes and responds to a call to an apartment, they know who the 24-hour contact is. They know who the landlord is. They know who's supposed to be living in this residence. A lot of times the kids will say, well, I don't live here, when they actually do. So if we had a voluntary registry similar to what goes on up in Amherst, I think we can even get a better control on what's going on. So those are just some of the things I have done, some of the things I want to do, and I hope we can get moving forward on this.
Thank you. Juan, we have the same question. Off-campus college parties are concerned for residents in your ward. What do you think is the solution to this problem?
Thank you. I do agree with Mr. Figge in those lines that if it is a problem for the neighbors, then yeah, there should be some kind of enforcement to find the people that are throwing the parties or hosting the parties, and if it's the person who leased that apartment, it go back to them. They're responsible ultimately for that property. So yes, definitely some kind of enforcement would, you know, I would be in favor for something like that going forward. Whoever it is, you know, it's not your property. You should respect the landlord's property just as if it was your own. Just because you're in college doesn't mean that you should just trash somebody's house. There are several around my neighborhood, so I've seen it, and I do agree. I do not like coming down my street and seeing houses that are run down and just beer cans all over the street on the lawns. It degrades my property, it degrades the neighbors' properties, and yeah, they should be held accountable.
Thank you. You'll be responding first to this question. Our city has approved the establishment for up to 4 marijuana dispensaries, which will bring in a minimum of 3% sales tax revenue and more in retail sales. Would you be in favor of changing zoning laws to allow these businesses to open? Would you support zoning for marijuana establishments downtown?
This is one of the issues of why I'm running. I do want to be part of a positive change. It's not an easy answer, I will tell you that, specifically for me, because I have a son who has pulmonary issues, and that is a very big concern. So same thing with the partying. If my neighbor all of a sudden is lighting up and I can't come outside our house and all I smell is marijuana, that's an issue. I would also, you know, be seeking some kind of legislation like that. If, you know, you're getting too many complaints, you know, you got to knock it off, because other people that don't want any part of it, don't want to smell it, don't want to be around it. Me especially, because I work at the airport, I'm on a federally drug tested program, and I cannot go to work if I pop positive. I do appreciate that it does have medicinal purposes, and as long as it doesn't affect anybody else, I'm for it.
Thanks, Ralph. Same question. Our city has approved the establishment for up to 4 marijuana dispensaries, which will bring in tax revenue and retail sales. Would you be in favor of changing zoning laws to allow these businesses to open? Do you support zoning for marijuana establishments downtown?
When we drafted the ordinances for the control of marijuana, we capped them at 4, and that was as a reason for it, was to just see how it goes, and if we need to increase that in the future, we would be able to do that. We restricted all marijuana operations to Industrial A, which at the time I thought was a little restrictive, but we didn't want to open up to the whole city. So as time goes on, you see the effects of the ordinances that you write and you pass, and you see the effects that they've had. Right now, we're starting to see that there is more of a demand for different types of marijuana operations. There could be a grow operation, there could be a retail sales operation, it could be a distribution center, it could be a lot of different things. And we didn't delineate what could go anywhere except in residential A, or not residential, excuse me, in industrial A. I think that we need to review our zoning and look at the possibility of expanding that a little bit. I'm not really sure that downtown is the appropriate place for it. I have a lot of elderly voters that live in the downtown area that are not for that type of an operation in where they're living. So I do think we need to expand it. I would think out on Main Street might be a good place for it, but I'm really reluctant to support changing and allowing it in the downtown overlay district. But I do think we need to take a look at it. It's been a couple years. Things change. We have a lot more information now than we've had before, and it might be time to make a little change. But by adding licenses, I don't think we're going to increase our revenues. I think the marijuana pie is only so big, and if you have 6, 7, 8 different distribution points, you're still going to have the same amount of money. It's just going to come in from different sources. So I don't think that is going to really impact the revenue stream as much. So I think it's time to look at it again. I know one of the counselors has submitted a motion to do that, and I think we need to do some work in committee to see that.
guys are moving right along. This is our last question already. Ralph, you are first to respond. What is your top priority for your ward?
As I've been in Ward 2 my whole residential life here in Westfield, I've seen it come and change. Ward 2 is one of the older neighborhoods in Westfield, and I think one of the first priorities we should be looking at is the infrastructure within the ward. We have 100-year-old water pipes. We have 100-year-old sewers. Our roads appear sometimes to be 100 years old. But I think we need to develop some sort of a systematic approach to start renewing some of these water lines and some of these sewer lines before we have total failure. I know that I would be working with the DPW, the sewer department, and the mayor's office in trying to develop such a plan. But I think it's important that we maintain our infrastructure, and it's very important that we do that for the quality of life issues. The second thing I'd like to continue is working with the schools. I'm the city council liaison to the school committee and school department. I attend the bi-monthly meetings of the school department. I meet with the superintendent of schools once a month to discuss the operations, the pains, the glories, and everything that goes with it. Ward 2 has 4 schools in it. It has Abner Gibbs, it has Fort Meadow, 2 of the oldest schools in Westfield. Abner Gibbs is 104 years old, Fort Meadow's 105 years old. Both have outlived their purpose. We need to move forward on closing Abner Gibbs and either remodeling, rebuilding, or tearing down Franklin Avenue. I'm working closely with the mayor, the city purchasing agent, and the school committee to try and get that working. We have filed our statement of intent, and we're working on getting a newer school for the kids in wards 2 and 3. So schools, the other 2 schools are the Westfield Middle School as well as St. Mary's. So we have quite a variety of educational opportunities in Ward 2, and I think that's really important that we work and maintain those. Education is the key to the future. Without an education, without an educated workforce, it won't matter what we try to bring into Westfield, because if we don't have the labor force to support the businesses coming in, then we're defeating our purpose. The third area that I think we need to continue to work on is public safety. I've been a strong proponent of both the fire and the police department, and I will continue to do that. So those are a couple. I mean, you could make a list a mile long of what you want to work on in your ward, but those are the areas that I'd like to continue to work on. Thank you.
Thank you. And Juan, same question. What is your top priority for Ward 2?
My top priorities would be, of course, listening to the people of Westfield and what they want to see going forward. But for me personally, I would like to put out that I am definitely education friendly. I have, like I said, 3 children at various different ages, 16, 8, and 3. So that's a big concern going forward for me as far as their education. I do like what the Westfield Technical Academy is doing with the different programs that they have there. I think it would be important going forward to expanding on that, cutting the programs that are not working no more if need be, to allow for different programs for the kids, whatever the kids want. So that's one area definitely I am a proponent for. I do want to state that I'm also going to be business friendly. I don't think that the government should overstep too much into what a business does. So I definitely want to put an ear out to whatever their concerns are to make their businesses grow in hopes of generating more tax revenue that way. The other concern, like I mentioned before, I do work at the airport. I'd love to be more involved with that and getting more out of the airport if we can, generating more revenue. Nobody wants the trucks, okay, what about airplanes? But not to a point where it's gonna upset the neighbors and with the noise. Again, you gotta take everything with some kind of a balance and make sure the quality of life for the people that live in those areas are not affected tremendously.
Great. And for closing statements, Juan, you have the mic. Go ahead.
For closing, going forward, like I said, I'm running because I like the democratic process, and when the voters come out and there's nobody else running against the gentleman. I feel like our voices are taken away from us. You have no choice. Therefore, the democratic process is diminished a little bit. So that's one of the things I am running on. Like I said, I do also want to be part of the change of Westfield going forward. I would enjoy working with either mayor, whichever one gets elected. I am still undecided myself. And I have good relationship with both of them. I hope that I grab the mindset of the majority of the people of what they want to see going forward. And same thing, if I'm an open book. If you want to ask me a question, get in touch with me. We can talk in the back, and I can elaborate more. And I hope there's a big turnout this year. One more thing I want to iterate is that that people need to come out more than just on election day. Everybody as a whole needs to be able to express to their city councilors, not just myself, not Mr. Figge, everybody, whoever you need to get in touch with, to voice your concerns of going forward. If we the people are the ones that are deciding who's voting for them or making these changes, we the people still need to be on top of what it is that they're deciding on and voicing your concerns. If not, anybody that's on the city council, myself or whoever's on there, they're just going to vote based on the information that they have, which may go against the popular consensus. So I urge the people that are watching this to not just think that your decision-making or your voice begins and ends on November 5th. Throughout the entire process, throughout the entire year, you should be out there and talking to your elected officials about what your concerns are going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ralph, your closing, please.
Thank you. Once again, I'd like to thank Tina Gorman for opening up the senior center. When we were first looking to build this, I don't think we ever dreamed that it would become what it has become, and it really is a pleasant addition to Ward 2. I'd like to thank Hope and Kate for all you do to get this to run and to keep it moving. And Kenny, again, I'd like to thank you for giving up your free time to record this and move it on. I think what I'd like to say is I would like to thank Juan for running. He's absolutely correct. If there's no choice, then what choice do you have? It's always good to have choices. My grandfather always said the more choices you have, sometimes the harder the decision is to make. But I think in this situation, this is a good thing. The democratic process doesn't always work as it was intended if it's only one person. So Ward 2 is filled up with a lot of good people, a lot of people with different, and a variety of different interests and occupations, a lot of different needs. I like to think that I am accessible. I hold monthly office hours here at the Senior Center. I have my phone number and my email readily available. If anybody contacts me, I contact them back within 24 hours unless I'm out of state. Then it might take 2 days. But I like to think that I'm dependable. I make the majority of meetings that I'm supposed to go to. As a liaison to the school committee, that's 2 meetings a month for the school committee. As a liaison for the Council on Aging, that's one meeting a month. So I am in touch with the various department heads quite a bit. I like to wander through City Hall, checking in the various departments, see how they're doing, and see if there's any issues, any needs that need to be addressed. So I would just like to again thank everybody. It would be an honor and a privilege to continue to serve as your Ward 2 City Councilor, and I really would like to encourage everyone to exercise their right to vote on November 5th. Remember, Ward 2 votes here, lots of parking, lots of light. It's not like in the old days. So again, thank you everybody for coming out. Thanks for your interest, and I appreciate everything here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to our candidates. Again, we'll take a 5-minute break, and we have one candidate for Ward 3 who will be up next. Welcome back, everybody. We are here tonight with our third and final session of the evening, which is our Ward 3 candidate, Bridget Matthews Kane. She is unopposed, but she has graciously come out so that she could meet some folks and tell us a little bit about herself. She's also going to have an opening statement of 2 minutes, a series of questions, and a closing. And you might notice some similarities in these questions to the last ones. Wards 2 and 3 certainly have a lot of similar issues. So if you'd like to offer your opening statement.
Hello, I'm Bridget Matthews-Kane. I'm running for Ward 3. I'd like to thank the Senior Center, the Westfield Chamber of Commerce, and the Westfield News for sponsoring this tonight. I'd also like to thank you all for being here. And I'd like to thank my family for supporting me during this campaign. Just some basic background on me. I was also raised in Westfield. I was born at Noble Hospital. I lived, in my youngest years, I was on Holland Avenue, which is in Ward 3. And then when I was in 2nd grade, my family moved to Court Street. So I grew up in Ward 3. I had a very idyllic Westfield childhood. I went to St. Mary's Elementary School. I went to Westfield High School. I graduated in 1987. And I moved away. So I spent the next 15 years, I was not living in town. During that time, I was really doing 2 things. One was that I was working on my own education, and I was also working in the education field. I started as a teacher in basic adult education. I really loved it, but I realized I wanted more challenging material to teach, so I got my PhD, and I taught at the college level for 15 years. And while I was getting my education and teaching, I moved all up and down the East Coast. I was in Hyannis, Worcester, Boston, Philadelphia, outside of Washington, D.C. I even lived for a year in Dublin, Ireland, and for 3 months in Beijing. So I lived in some of the great cities on the East Coast. I lived in some of the great cities in the world. But my husband and I are high school sweethearts. And when we decided once we started a family, where were we going to live, we decided we were going to live in Westfield. I grew up here, but I chose it as well. We moved here, and I love it. When he was deployed, I really felt supported during his deployment to Iraq. We loved going to St. Mary's, a church that one of my maternal great-great-grandparents helped found. I loved teaching at Westfield State. We love raising our 4 kids here. We love raising our 4 kids here. But as great as Westfield is, I think it could be even better, and that's why I'm here in front of you to run for Westfield City Council.
Thank you. First question. Your ward includes Bay State Noble Hospital, and there's been interest in establishing a new hospital zone. Are you in favor of this, and why or why not?
I'm very glad you asked this question. The short answer is yes, but it's much more complex than that. When almost 2 years ago, Noble came out that they wanted to rezone, I saw the original document and I had immediate concerns that it was not going to protect the neighborhood. And it was going to allow them to do things that wouldn't be good for the neighborhood in the city. I wrote a petition, I collected signatures, we submitted it to the city, we spoke in front of city council. We got them to revise. The next zone change was much better, but it's still not enough. The central problem is, right now many things are under site plan approval. That gives the hospital the ability to make changes, and the city can shape what happens, but they can't stop what happens. I want it under, most things under special permit process. It would allow the city to stop something that's harmful. I showed the most recent zone document to a lawyer, and she said, do you realize that they could build a biomedical waste incinerator with this current document? I'm not saying that Noble wants to do that. I'm not saying they have plans to do it. But with the way it's currently written, the city of Westfield could do nothing to stop them from doing that. However, if we put it under special permit process, we would be able to do that. So that's the number one thing that I'm looking for. I want to do another revision. I want to get it closer to a point where it will protect the city and the neighborhood. But I do say I'm ultimately in favor of a zoning change. I think we're lucky that we have it in town. My own mother, she died of ovarian cancer 7 years ago, and her last year was pretty rough. She was in and out of that emergency room, and I felt like we were really lucky to have the quality of care that we did there and that we had something right in town. So I want to come up with a document that will help the neighborhood, help the city, and help the hospital at the same time.
Thank you. sorry, you're like in the spotlight right now, so.
That's okay, one after another, that's okay.
Again, off-campus college parties are also a concern for residents in your ward, and what do you think is the solution to these
Okay.
problems?
So I don't think there's one silver bullet that's going to solve this problem, and I'm glad that Ralph Figge brought up some of the things that he'd been working on. I think another thing that has not been brought up, and this has been done at other colleges and universities, and it's been very beneficial, is it's called a restorative justice program. It's where the students have to opt into it and the residents have to opt into it. And there's more of a discussion between the two about what's going to be done. The problem with this solution is the city of Westfield could not implement it. It would have to be done by Westfield State University. But I have like I said, I taught at Westfield State for 10 years. I know a lot of people there. I'm hoping to bring a lot of the stakeholders from the city to a meeting and talk to the college, the president, about how this might be helpful to the city. Because like I said, there's not one silver bullet. I think that will help nibble away at the problem. We can pass other ordinances that might as well, but that's the solution that I'm hoping to tackle during my first 2 years in office.
And our city has approved the establishment for up to 4 marijuana dispensaries, which will bring in tax revenue. Are you in favor of changing zoning laws to allow them to open, and would you support zoning for marijuana establishments downtown?
So again, I'll be echoing some things people said earlier. I'm in favor of re-examining it. You know, there's different types of marijuana. There's grow operations, there's packaging operations, there's selling operations. I am a little hesitant, though, to put some in downtown, and that's because we have a lot of schools in the downtown neighborhood, and that raises a lot of concerns for me. So I'd be willing to examine it and think about it, but downtown, I think because there's so many schools in the area, we want to think carefully about what we put there.
Speed is a concern in the downtown corridor where you live. What solution would you like to see to attempt to curb the speeding?
Okay, so this is actually, I've been knocking on a lot of doors, and speeding is something that's come up on several streets. A lot of people are on a cut through, and they feel like people really race down those streets. So, for example, one person who spoke to me is right across the street from the Westfield Technical Academy, and she's really concerned. And I was surprised when I went down the street. First, there's actually no signage that shows what the speed limit is on that street. I think that would be a great place to start with increased signage so people know what the speed limit is. The resident actually asked if we would consider doing on that street the kind of speed bumps that they have in downtown Westfield, but I would want to do anything that we do incrementally. I would want to start with increased signage so people know what the speed limit is, and think about for different streets. I think the speeding on Smith Ave, because it's such a wide space, is different than the speeding that I was hearing about on High Street was another street that expressed concern with that. So that's where I'd like to start.
Moving right along, our last
I know,
question is
does
what is your top priority for Ward 3?
So that's a hard question. There's so many top priorities. It's hard to pick one. I think if I had to go with the top 3, I would say bringing the Noble Hospital rezoning to a conclusion that works for both the residents and the hospital. That would be one. One thing when I've been door knocking, I've been hearing a lot about, we've already talked about the off-campus college housing, but the other issue is there's some new sober living houses in my ward. There's one that's gonna go up on Pleasant Street, and there's another one in the Sherman Street neighborhood. And for the sober living houses, because of federal regulations, there's certain things that we can't do, but to try and think of ways to make it better for the residents in the area. So that's a new thing that we're gonna have to tackle. And a lot of residents have complained to me about Whip City Fiber that they don't have it yet. They want it and they don't have it yet, and they don't think it's equitable that they haven't received coverage, especially when we're gonna start covering some of the hill towns. So those are my big 3 for my first term in office.
We're already at your closing statement.
Oh my goodness. So I'm almost jealous I don't have an opponent. I get a little break in between.
I could give you an extra minute if you would like.
Oh, here we go. As I'm serving as your city councilor, I'm running unopposed, so I will be. There's a lot of strengths that I'm going to bring to the table. I grew up here, so I know the city intimately, but I've also lived in other areas of the country and the world, so I know how other communities work, and we can bring ideas from there back to Westfield. I've worked as an educator for years. I have strengths in communication, public speaking, problem solving, and doing research. Research is something that's really going to help me as a city councilor. And I've worked as a grassroots organizer in zoning issues in my immediate neighborhood for the past 10 years. And I also have a lot of strengths in organizing the community. What I want to accomplish is I want to invest wisely in our schools, our water, and our infrastructure. I want to increase the transparency in government, and I want to really be laser focused on quality of life issues in Ward 3. How do you know that I really care? If you look at the work I've done on the Noble Hospital rezoning, I've really thrown a lot of time and energy into it, into getting the residents informed about what's going on, about coming up with solutions, talking with lawyers, doing research. I'm going to throw that same kind of energy and commitment into every quality of life issue in the ward. And how do I know the ward's concerns? I've knocked on hundreds of doors, even though I'm running unopposed. People have raised topics that I wouldn't even know about if I hadn't heard it directly from them. And how do I want to accomplish this? Like the style, I really want to try and listen to everyone, research the ideas, talk to the other counselors, and come up with independent decisions about what we need to do. And I want to really try and do it with civility. I want to really be respectful to everyone and listen to them and be kind and caring as much as I can be. So in conclusion, I have 3 asks for everyone out there. First, I've really been reaching out to people and hearing what their concerns are. I want people in the ward to continue to reach out to me and tell me what they want. If you don't tell me, I don't know about it. Please reach out to me. A second thing is, please allow me to reach out to you. If you're out there and you're in Ward 3, please find me on Facebook, like my page. I send out lots of Ward 3 information that way. You can send me your email address and I'll put you on my mailing list for Ward 3 issues. And the third and final thing I'm going to ask for, if you're in Ward 3, I ask for your vote. I'm really looking forward to advocating for you, and I'd appreciate your vote in November. Thank you very much.
I want to thank Kate from the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, and Tina from the Senior Center, and Peter and Ken from WSKB and Channel 15, and all of you who were here tonight and participated. This concludes our forum tonight. Please know again, on Monday, October 28th, Wards 4, 5, and 6 will be meeting right here at 6:30. On October 30th, our at-large, 13 at-large candidates will be meeting at Westfield Technical Academy at 6:30, and our mayoral candidates will be meeting on Tuesday, the 29th, at Westfield State University at 6:30. Thank you so much.